Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Daybreak. I'm Cade Montgomery.
And I'm Anthony Durso. We missed you last week, but we hope you enjoyed your spring break. Get ready for another episode of exciting news. Find out why Pittsburgh Playhouse's production of Newsies was canceled 2 days early.
And hear all about the popular Pittsburgh mode of transportation that's finally back up and running after a 7-month closure. And of course, reporters Nicholas Konopka and Samuel Parator are here to give you your political and sports news.
Stay tuned. We have all this and more coming up. Wake up and smell the coffee, Pittsburgh. Daybreak starts right now.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we start sharing your campus news, here's your weekly weather update with Nick Konopka.
Thanks, Kate and Anthony. Spring break may be over, but spring weather has just begun here in Pittsburgh. Last week, we had a few sunny days with one almost reaching 70 degrees, which was a welcome change from the dreary weather we've been used to. This week, we aren't going to be fair quite as well, but it does seem as though we're steadily moving away from winter. We'll mainly be seeing temperatures between 30 and 40 degrees, with some highs extending up into the low 50s. There will be some precipitation throughout the week and perhaps even snowfall. Only time will tell. That's it for this week's weather report. Now back to our hosts.
Thanks, Nick.
We have a lot to catch you up on since we were last on air.
It's time for your campus news, Point Park.
If you're looking for a safe space to talk to somebody, Point Park's Healing Circles events are back again for the month of March. This month, events will be focused on women's healing circles, according to an email sent out by campus announcements. Healing Circles is a way to connect, share, and grow with a support network committed to healing. The Healing Circle has a different focus each month, with January having been the Men's Healing Circle and February having been the Racial Healing Circle. Later on in the semester, the April focus will be a Pride Healing Circle. Women's Healing Circles will take place this month on March 13th and 20th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the Student Center second floor Blue Room. The events are led by Cassandra Moffett, the Director of Health and Wellness, and Michael Thornhill, Point Park's diversity practitioner and educator. You can reach out to either of them with any questions regarding the Healing Circles via university email.
Well, Point Park University was without power last week while students were on spring break. On Friday, the Point Park Police Force sent out an email notifying that the university was aware of the power outage at 7:10 that evening. The power was restored almost 2 hours later. This came after a line of heavy winds and rain moved through the downtown area. KDKA reported that winds in the area at that time were reaching up to 20 miles an hour.
A campus production was forced to cancel the rest of its performances after a partial set collapse and water damage interrupted one of its shows. Point Park University's production of Disney's Newsies was scheduled to run from February 22nd through February 26th in the Pittsburgh Playhouse's PNC Theater, but was cut short during the Friday, February 24th performance when a piece of scenery fell to the stage from the set and a ruptured fire sprinkler caused water to spray onto the stage and into the orchestra pit immediately after. According to WTAE, this chain of events triggered an emergency alarm, causing the theater to be evacuated. It was reported that one student was taken to the hospital to be treated and was later released. Lou Carrasso, Director of Marketing and Public Relations, told WTAE that anyone with tickets to the Friday night show or any other remaining show would receive a refund, as the remaining shows were forced to be canceled so that officials can determine the direct cause of this event and prepare the theater for its remaining schedule. If you are a ticket holder for any of these shows, you can visit the Pittsburgh Playhouse website for their email or phone number to find more information on these refunds.
It's like really scary for sitting in the audience and you see something like that happen on stage.
I know. I knew several people who were in the audience at that show, and they just were so confused what was happening, and it was super scary for them, and I'm sure all the performers on stage at the time too.
Yeah, well, the people in the audience may have thought that it was part of the show, not knowing what was going to happen at that moment. But yeah, especially for the actors and actresses too. Just seeing something like that happen on stage.
And
is
having
really
to
terrible.
cancel the rest of their performances. Like, they could have had family coming and things like that. It's just awful for so much work they put into those.
Right.
Really.
Well, after the break, we'll start by diving into this week's Pittsburgh news. We have some important updates for you, so stay tuned.
Then we'll hand things over to our reporters Samuel Parator and Nick Konopka before finishing off with this week's Ray of Sunshine.
Daybreak will be right back.
Regular physical activity is one of the most important things you can do for your health. The benefits of physical activity include brain health, weight management, reducing disease, strengthening your bones and muscles, and improving your ability to do everyday activities. So, it's time to get up and be active.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Welcome back to Daybreak. We're happy you stuck around.
Now let's get started with your city news.
A second Norfolk Southern train derailed over the weekend, this time in Springfield, Ohio. The transportation company confirmed to CBS News that 20 out of 212 cars derailed Saturday near Ohio State Route 41 in Clark County. According to CBS News, residents within 1,000 feet of the derailment were warned to shelter in place by the county's Emergency Management Agency. This comes 1 month after a separate Norfolk Southern train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, near the Pennsylvania border. KDKA reported Monday that Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro said that the company now has to pay up. $5 million will go to a local fire department that are in need of new equipment after fires that sparked from the derailment. $1 million will go to a community relief fund for Pennsylvania citizens who were impacted in Beaver and Lawrence counties. The Department for Environmental Protection and the Department of Health will also receive grants from Norfolk Southern.
This year, the Original Oyster House, a seafood restaurant in downtown Pittsburgh's Market Square, will celebrate 153 years of serving meals. The restaurant reportedly serves 400 to 500 orders a day on average. Some employees at the restaurant told WTAE that their lives changed 2 years ago when the owner of the restaurant, Jen Grippo, decided that employees should only have 4-day work weeks. Grippo said, quote, "There was absolutely no quality of life for any of us in the business." End quote. Working in the restaurant business is typically pretty grueling with long shifts and very few days off. Giving employees at this specific restaurant 3 days off a week gives them an opportunity to attend some of downtown's events, spend time with family, or simply have a break. Grippo also told WTAE that this change has had a positive change on employees and made her realize that there's, quote, "so much more life to be lived outside of these four walls," end quote. You can visit the Original Oyster House in Market Square Wednesday through Saturday each week.
Well, the Monongahela Incline has reopened after a 7-month closure that was originally supposed to last only 3 months. Pittsburgh Regional Transit closed the incline that takes passengers from Mount Washington to Station Square on August 1st of last year. The $8.2 million project consisted of an update in mechanical controls and minor remodeling of the upper and lower stations. The incline, which was built in 1870, was scheduled to reopen in mid-November, but PRT stated that because of, quote, unforeseen supply chain issues, end quote, it would be postponed. The reopening date was eventually pushed back to the first full week of March. On Monday, the incline was scheduled to reopen at 5:30 as usual, but PRT tweeted that operators discovered a mechanical issue. Maintenance crews were able to restore service by the 7 o'clock hour, and it was now up and running once again. And I deliver this with happy news as a commuter student and a Mount Washington resident, because now I use it every day, and I would have used it every day last semester, but it was closed.
I know, you always would complain about that because you love the incline.
I don't love it. I just like using it.
You like that it's convenient.
It's convenient. Yes, yes. I've been on it plenty of times before the closure, but now I use it every day. And they had the incline shuttle bus that would take you from Station Square up to Shiloh Street, like incline normally does, but that was useless. It said it ran every 30 minutes, but it totally did not. But I digress, and now I am happy. So, before we share this week's Ray of Sunshine, reporter Nick Konopka and Samuel Parator are here to share your political news and sports news.
First up is Samuel Parator here with this week's Sideline Slice. Sam?
Thanks, Ken and Anthony. My name is Samuel Parator, and I am back for the first March edition of the Sideline Slice, where I catch you up on what happened in the XFL's Week 3 and what to expect in Week 4. Starting us off, on Saturday, we saw quarterback Ben DiNucci lead his Seattle Sea Dragons to their first win as they took down the Vegas Vipers. This game was tied 9-9 at halftime, but the points kept flooding in during the second half as the Sea Dragons took it 30-26, backed by DiNucci throwing for 377 yards and 4 scores to make up for the 1 interception and 1 fumble. Now we move to Sunday, where we saw a Wild West shootout between 2 heavyweights in the DC Defenders and the St. Louis Battlehawks. The return of the beloved Beer Snake seemed to be enough to propel the Defenders to the 34-28 victory to improve to 3-0 and hand the Battlehawks their first loss on the year. Also, both for context and just the fact that this is pretty insane, this Beer Snake was 1,240 cups deep at halftime, which means that 20,000 ounces of beverages had been consumed in 30 football minutes. And these games tend to run faster than the NFL does. That is pretty crazy. Here's to many more weeks of the ever-growing legend of the Beer Snake. After 2 high-scoring shootouts, Sunday's second game decided to turn it down a couple notches, as we saw the Arlington Renegades inch past the Orlando Guardians 10-9 for a game that apparently had a lot more off-field intrigue going on rather than on-field excitement. Wrapping up Week 3, we saw the Houston Roughnecks take down the San Antonio Brahmas 22-18 to also improve to 3-0 and sit atop with the Defenders as the only 2 teams to still be undefeated. Week 4 will see the Houston Roughnecks take on the Orlando Guardians, and the San Antonio Brahmas travel to Seattle to take on the Sea Dragons on Saturday, and on Sunday we will see the Arlington Renegades take on the St. Louis Battlehawks, and the Vegas Vipers battle the DC Defenders. I also found a couple of fun tidbits about this week's schedules. The first and last games will consist of the best team in a respective division, Houston and DC in this case, taking on the worst team in that same division, Vegas and Orlando. And this will be the first week of the season that not a single game will be hosted in the state of Texas. That is all for me, hoping that the Defenders can continue to defend DC and keep running the North. Now let's send it over to the acclaimed Nicholas Konopka for this week's PolitiSmack.
Welcome back to PolitiSmack. I'm Nick Konopka. Just this morning, Governor Josh Shapiro went before the state's General Assembly to deliver his first budget address. This annual speech gives the governor a chance to propose a budget to the state legislature and gives us a glimpse of some of his policy priorities. As promised on the campaign trail, tax cuts are a key aspect of this budget. That includes a reduction of the state corporate income tax by 0.5 percentage point, as well as a total elimination of the state's 16% tax on cell phone purchases. Taking a stab at worker shortages, Shapiro proposed a $2,500 tax rebate for new teachers, nurses, and police officers in the state. Additionally, the budget would invest more money into special education and childcare programs, fields that have also been victims of worker shortages. The governor also called for a $1 billion increase in education funding more broadly. That would include money for school repairs, strengthened technical programs, and free school breakfasts to combat childhood hunger. The governor finished his speech by throwing some red meat to Democrats, vowing to protect voting rights, unions, and reproductive rights, all issues that would not fall under the budget process. Beyond any one proposal, the governor often stressed the importance of bipartisanship throughout the speech. Even the topics he covered seemed to jump back and forth between Democratic and Republican priorities. In one moment, he'd mention reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and the next, he'd call for more classes of state trooper cadets. Several times throughout the speech, he referenced the responsibility that legislators have to deliver for the people of the state, pointing out that many voters voted for himself as well as the Republicans in the chamber. The General Assembly often waits till the last minute when crafting a budget, so it likely won't be until summer that we'll see how many of the governor's proposals will make it to the finish line. That's all for PolitiSmack this week. I'm Nick Konopka, and now it's time to send it to your hosts for this week's Ray of Sunshine.
Thanks so much, everyone. In case this is your first time joining us, or if you just need a refresher, Ray of Sunshine is our way of starting your day with a smile and an inspirational quote.
Well, spring break is over, but the spring season is coming very soon. Spring is about new beginnings and fresh starts, so this week's quote is oriented around that.
Our quote for this week comes from an anonymous author and reads, quote, "The ending of something merely signifies the potential for a new beginning," end quote.
Yeah, now that we're ending winter and going into spring, although I feel like we've been in spring for a while.
Yeah, it's been a warm winter.
Yeah. But like the quote was saying,
Yeah.
a lot of new beginnings coming up. It's a new year. The beginning of the new year, I should say.
Definitely. It's definitely signifying a new beginning. I feel a change in myself. I definitely want to be a lot more productive. The better weather makes me want to like get out more, sit outside, do my homework. Definitely a more productive feeling. So hopefully this is a fresh start for that.
I wish I could feel the same. I don't have any productive feeling right now.
Well,
Well,
we'll get there.
Yeah, I don't think I ever do, but hey,
Happens.
it'll come. Who knows? Well, that is it for this episode of Daybreak. Thank you all so much for watching.
You can catch clips from all of our previous Daybreak episodes on our YouTube at UView Television.
Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at DaybreakPPU. Until next time, I'm Anthony Durzo.
And I'm Cade Montgomery, hoping your news is great news. Have a great week, everyone.